So Imola, guys, isn't this amazing? Okay, so let's start. It's obviously Nordschleife. Yes, drink. Well, Imola is called the Little Nordschleife. So you know, let's get the aggressive setup and drive. So let me do a small initial lap as usual, and position ourselves to the start-finish straight line, and then start the circuit walk from there, so that we can get our reference points for braking, turning, and so on. No game sound. Okay, we can fix that. Desktop audio. Yeah, that should be nice, right? Let me know. Yeah, okay. Electric 488. This circuit is really wonderful. It's old style, Yes, there are still some chicanes here and there, but they are much faster than the usual chicane, And there are uphills and downhills and everything. And it has such a different flow. It's not easy to overtake, but it's still very nice to race in the circuit, even though at some situations you simply cannot see the road because of the uphills and downhills. And so if you're following a car very closely, like here, you're gonna have issues watching just where the circuit goes. Big curbs, traditional big curbs, but you can ride the curbs. And yeah, pretty impressive circuit. Look at this. I mean, this is all downhill. It's so steep. All right, so here we are. Hello, Alexander. Hello, Dr. Watson. Thank you for the follow. So here we are. Start-finish line. The finish line is a bit sooner than the start line. Okay, so first of all, the first thing that you need to know into this straight is that it's a long straight. It's pretty long. It's actually a little bit shorter than the start-finish straight at Monza. So it's that long. But it's not a straight. It's a very gentle sweep to the right, constant sweep. So there's no big deal. There's no problem to make it flat out. No problem at all. But you need to be gentle with your steering input. All right. You need to not make too much of steering input, too much of a movement, because obviously if you exaggerate this, you're gonna scrub speed, and obviously you're gonna be slower. So try to cut the lines, use a very wide line through the whole straight and sweep to the right. So again, now here we go under the finish line here, cut a little bit to the green, and again now you have to point as straight as possible into that curb, which is the start line, by the way, and you can see the red at the semaphore on top. Okay, so you need to come straight here as possible, and then after you're here, all right, start watching far away on that semaphore. Okay, and you need to go over there again as straight as possible. So no big movements with your steering wheel. Go straight as straight as possible there. Okay, so we are going towards that, and you can see here the semaphore, both the semaphore and the yellow parts. The orange parts on the sidewall. Now you want to have your car a little bit wide on the right here, and rotate it a little bit. And rotate it a little bit so that once you arrive here, that it could be your initial braking reference point. Okay, so these orange spots could be your initial braking reference points when your tires are cold, or maybe you're still learning the track and so on. But you need to again stop watching here and start watching far away to that second orange patch. Why? Because as you can see, during the whole braking zone, the road actually turns slightly to the left. Okay, but obviously if you are braking and turning, your braking distance is going to be longer, so you don't want that. So you want to rotate your car a little bit and point your steering wheel to go straight to that orange spot long into the horizon. Okay, so straight away into that. And obviously if you do that properly, you will be able to brake as straight as possible and still arrive to the very right margin of the road before the turning in. Okay, so make sure to do this. So again, brake around here, but as you get better and better, you will notice there is a small asphalt patch here. You can see it. Okay, it's a bit on the shadow, but there is this small asphalt patch, very narrow. When you go over that, this is a very good reference point when your braking starts to become later and later and later as you learn more of the circuit, you know, and your car. So start braking on the orange spots before that, and then as you become better, the second reference point for braking is this small asphalt paths on the side of the road. Okay, so as I said, straight line braking, and now you are going, you see, wide here. Now, sorry about that, let me go a little bit backwards. Okay, as you can see, we have the 50 meters here. Okay, and also underneath the 50 meters there is this white patch. Okay, so when you arrive close to this, after that and before the end of the tricolore curve, tricolore is three colors, which is green, white and red, it's the Italian flag. Okay, so after you go through the 50 meters mark and before, let's say, the end of the curve here, this is the correct place when you can start. Oops, sorry. So you can start turning in for the first turn, which is called Traguardo. So this is the correct place when you start to turn in for Traguardo. And as you can see, this is your first experience here with the curbs of Imola. Now, obviously, drivers were abusing the hell out of those curbs, and naturally, they have put sausages, and they are pretty high sausages here. You don't want to go over the sausages because, yes, with the correct setup, the car can go over, but it will jump a lot, and that will make you lose time. That will make the traction control engage, and that will make your car, jump around, and you will lose time. Okay, so what you want to do is go up the curb and just touch a little bit the sausages. You have to practically, ideally, obviously it's not easy, but you have to ideally position your tire here. This is the perfect placement, you know. So over the normal curb and touching or just slightly going up to the still low part of the sausage, you see, like that. Okay, and you want to end up not very wide here, because you need to be able to already, after you are over the apex, you want to be able to go on the accelerator flat out and be able to turn to the other part again, same situation. So up the curb, touch the sausage, don't go over the sausage, it will jump around, and you want to be flat out here. Okay, so this is flat out again. Again, don't go very wide because you will need as much as possible space to turn again. And we have arrived at Tamburello. Now this is the Tamburello, not the turn before. The turn before is called Traguardo. The last part of this left, right, and left chicane, fast chicane, is called Tamburello. Before the chicane, it was a very fast, unique bend that was called Tamburello. It has a very sad story. We all know that 1st of May, unfortunately, Ayrton Senna lost his life here, crashing where you can see the flags and memorials left from the people at Imola and from the fans. Again, as I said, here, touch the curb once more. This turn, usually you already have a lot of speed, and usually the cars start to go wide in understeer. So you need to have a perfect line, not overdo it with steering input, because otherwise your front tires will lose, lateral grip if you overdo it, and you will end up wide and possibly into the sun, because one very important thing that you always have to remember at Imola, it is that Imola is a real track, and real track means that after the curb, okay, you don't have asphalt. Oh no, you have sand. It's a sand trap. So if you go over this curb here, okay, you're gonna end into the sand. You're gonna lose time, lose control, mess up. It's gonna be terrible, all right? And possibly even damage your tires. And in Assetto Corsa Competizione, you can't damage your tires like that and lose pressure, all right? Okay, so out of Tamburello, we saw here the placement, as you can see, for Ayrton Senna. The fans come here and leave messages for Ayrton Senna, and we have obviously the Brazilian flag. For people that do not know, Ayrton Senna arrived here. It wasn't a chicane, but it was a full, almost flat-out speed after that long straight. So very, very high speeds. He lost control, or there was something wrong with the car or with the setup of the car. So he lost control and he ended up crashing here and lost his life. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, Formula One driver, certainly one of the greatest. And obviously here Imola the Autodromo made this wonderful statue of him. And we had to recreate it, of course. And here are the flags, and so on. Okay. Let's move on. Unfortunately, motorsport is dangerous, and it has its victims. Okay, moving on. As we are arriving at Villeneuve, this very fast entry chicane, fast entry left-hander chicane. Here at the 50 mark is where you want to start braking. Usually you will arrive here in 5th gear, and you will need to brake down to 3rd gear, so 4th and 3rd gear. It's very, very important to turn in and release the brakes, or at least, again, not so good to go over the sausages as usual, but you need to go over the curb, absolutely. You need to modulate your brake pressure here, otherwise you're going to end up very wide, or if you don't do it properly, the car might rotate too much and you're going to have oversteer and end up on the left side here. You want, again, to get in there. My advice is brake before, go a little bit on the accelerator here while you're going down after the curb, over the curb and after the curb, and then instantly hard on the brakes as straight as possible. Okay, 2nd gear, brake, modulate, trail brake here and go over that curb again, touch the sausage, and very hard on acceleration here. If you do everything properly, you will end up with great acceleration on the outside of Villeneuve here. Very, very hard, fast entry. It can destabilize your car. It's difficult, and doing that lap after lap after lap for every lap, it's really hard. So make sure to practice properly, and don't, while you are during the race, don't try different things. You know, stick to what you know. Maybe practice again afterwards when you are not on a race. All right? Okay, so let's move on. Now, instantly go as wide as possible on the right side. Now, usually people will start braking at the 50 meters, but there is also a better sign and reference points to brake. And the reference point is this white rectangle patch down here into the asphalt. So let's go a little bit closer, right? You can see it here. Once you go over that, or just a tiny bit after that, brake as hard as you can for Tosa. Okay, so brake very hard for Tosa. Now, as you can see, Tosa has a lot of camber going in. So it pays, after the initial braking in a straight line, normally you should still going, straight and braking, but it pays to start, going a little bit inside, a little bit sooner than usual, because the camber will help you stay there, okay? Once you arrive here, more or less, by the way, you can also see there is a small patch here, not always exist, but there is a small patch to help you. Try to release the brakes. Releasing the brakes will give the front end more lateral grip, and it will keep you inside Tosa, okay? And go on the accelerator as fast as possible. If you keep braking, you won't have enough lateral grip from the tires, and you will start, sliding wide, and then you're gonna get understeer, and it would be very hard to go back to the accelerator. And you really need to go to the accelerator as fast as possible at the apex of Tosa, because after that, you get that really extremely steep hill climb for Piratella, and it's longer than it seems. It's really uphill, and every single meter of acceleration you can gain, from Tosa, it pays a lot during this whole uphill straight. Right, we also have a strange guy in the chat, so let's give him some time out. And goodbye. Nice. Okay. So, as we said, again, outside. Thought I banned him, but not. Yeah, fast accelerate, but no speed. Okay. So up we go, uphill. Now, again, here it's a straight, it's normal, but you need to prepare for the braking zone before Piratella. So you need to go a little bit on the left side, okay? It's not necessary to go extremely wide, so you can go just on the left side from the middle of the road. Why is that? Because then, as you can see, the road goes to the right, and then instantly you have the braking zone for Piratella, and you need to be as straight as possible on the braking zone, because if you arrive on the braking zone, obviously, and you're still loading, your left tires, the car won't be so stable, and your braking distance will be longer, because the ABS will start, engaging to control the slide of the car. Okay? So as I said, you need to be a little bit on the left side and aim for this kind of apex that you see on the uphill. So right on the horizon, on the uphill, on the crest, aim for that. Okay, don't overdo it with steering input. Okay, so keep it simple like this, you see? And once you go out from that, you will be practically straight for the braking zone. Now, braking zone again, 50 meters, start your braking reference point at 50 meters. Okay, thank you guys. And as you get better and better, you will start braking a little bit later than 50 meters. But to do so, you really need to understand how to go into Piratella. It's a very fast left-hander, it's tricky, it's dangerous, and it's frustrating sometimes. So here's why. So you brake here and you start going inside, okay, turning. As you can see, again, we have sausages here, so you don't have to go into the sausages. So if you do this kind of line that I'm doing right now, it won't be perfect because I'm on the apex already, but you need to take it in a way that you have a little bit of extra rotation, so possibly, you know, turn in a little bit later, but rotate the car more, because what you want to do ideally, let me show you, is go into the curb here, just touch that sausage, and then continue going over the curb even more after the last sausage. This is the perfect line here. You see? I'm still turning, so you have to be over that flat curb after the sausage. So the ideal line is a little bit later apex, touch the sausage, and still continue to give in. Why is that? Because as you can see, the turn keeps closing and the road gets narrower, okay? And you need to be already on the accelerator here and accelerate. But if you go into the accelerator with a wrong rotation of the car, then you're gonna have understeer, okay? Because at the same time the road starts going downhill, okay? So you get more traction at the rear, and you're gonna end up very, very wide. Now, that's not a big deal in terms of stability and, you know, controlling the car, because as you can see, we have extra asphalt. Oops, sorry about that. We have extra asphalt at the side of the road here. At least it's a beautiful Imola. And then you have the sand trap. But you still have the extra asphalt. But if you go over there, obviously you're going to get a warning for track limits, or you will be forced, obviously, to raise your foot to not get the warning. Another very important thing to remember is that this curb here is a little bit, you see, it's quite, it seems flat, but in reality it's pretty high, okay, as all curbs at Imola. And what can happen with a heavy car from the fuel rod, which also leans a lot to the outside, because this is a fast bend, okay? This is a bend of, I don't remember now, but it is quite fast, okay, medium to fast. Hello, Reaper and Aldis, thank you for the follow, guys. So, if you go with a car like this, okay, and having these very high steps into, whoops, sorry guys, let me make this slower so I can manage the movement. The very high steps of this curb, it means that you are going to touch with the under tray of the car into that curb if you put your car like that. And this is very dangerous at that point, because you are full committed, full on the accelerator, you are touching the ground, and obviously when touching, the car will start to jump, okay, and you will lose traction and lateral grip from the tires, and it's easy to spin the car. So be very careful to not go that wide as I am right now, but possibly to end up just before the to end up wide just before the steps on the outside of the curb. So again, you want to end up somewhere around here, you see, like this. Because if you go over that, then you have those very, very nasty steps on the curb. They are like pyramids, and they are much higher than what they seem, probably because of the paint over them. You cannot see them, but let me show you. They are high and nasty. Look at that. You see? So, very, very dangerous. Okay, so going down, stay close here and stay to the left as much as possible. Okay, and we are arriving obviously at one of the most important, dangerous, risky and amazing bends of the world, practically. So so we are arriving at Acque Minerali. Okay, Acque Minerali, it's two bends in one, practically, or almost 2.5, let's say, and includes the first one right, the second one right uphill, and a slight sweep on the left. It's called Acque Minerali, which means mineral water. Okay, because outside from here or inside, I don't remember, there is actually a mineral water where the water actually gets out to the river that you see going around the track. So here it's very tricky. Okay, so I advise you start by braking at the 50 meters mark here. Okay, braking and go towards the inner bend like this. Don't change down. Don't change down. Just brake. Go here like that. Again, don't go over those sausages. At least at first. We will talk about that in a minute. Now, my advice is brake hard initially so that you can learn. When you arrive here on the curb, release the brake from the car, okay? Go over the curb like that with coasting, okay? So no braking, no gas, coasting. And then after you are over the curb, hard on the brakes again, downshift to third, downshift to second, and you should, practically you have no other possibility. The car will just guide you like that. You won't be able to really turn the car properly. The car will guide you wide around here. Don't try not to go again over that curb too much, because again we have those nasty pyramid steps on the outside, and while you are braking it's going to be completely disaster. And if you touch also with your front splitter or the other tray behind the diffuser, it's going to be a complete disaster. So downshift, third, second gear. Now you are arriving really fast, especially if you are learning, you know how to do it. You will arrive really, really fast here, and your idea will be, okay, I have to keep braking a lot because I'm already turning in and I can feel that the car is going, you know, straight. So I cannot turn in, the car goes straight. Listen to my advice. After the initial turn in like that, while the car starts going like this, release the brakes. Release the brakes. You will see, incredibly enough, that the car will understeer a little bit, and once it gets into the uphill, it will start to rotate, and you will find your car over the curb like that. So release the brakes, go inside with confidence, and you see that the car will follow. It's a leap of faith, this turn, the whole thing. Even so, because when you start doing Acque Minerali properly, the initial part is even harder, and we will see that on the second lap. Okay, so we will see that in a minute. All right, so again, up the curb, don't touch the sausages as usual, and the car will go wide and wide and wide. Now, it's not much you can do here. Here, we still have those nasty curbs, steps, pyramidal steps, but you will end up wide. Try not to go too wide because you will get penalty, track limits penalty, and you will finish on the sausages, which is very, very difficult. So try to stay somewhere here. Full acceleration, don't worry about that. The traction control will do its magic. and don't overdo with the steering inputs, and you will end up practically, you know, pointing somewhere over there. No worries. Slightly turn your steering wheel. Don't overdo it. Don't try to stay to the left, okay? Because this will make the car turn a lot, and that will make the car accelerate slower, scrubbing speed from the tires and traction control engaging. So straight, a little bit of turn, input, steering input to the left, and you will see that you will be able to do this. Look at that. Like this. And that's it. You are up the hill. And now you can start going over the left side of the road straight. This is why all the cars, if you see the real race, do this strange line. That's why. Okay. Yes, Akulex, absolutely. Hello, YLMK1. Thanks for joining. All right, so we finally arrived at Variante Alta, which is the famous chicane from Variante Alta, which is the highest point of the circuit too, and possibly also the highest curbs of the circuit too. All right, so the braking reference point is very easy. It is the start of the curb, and once you get better and better and better, you will probably be able to start braking not at the start of the curb here, but at the start of the colored curb, so at the start of the tricolore here, okay? So, if you know what you're doing, you start braking here, or just a tiny bit before that, okay? So, brake again. Now, this is a narrow chicane and a slow chicane, and it has very, very high curbs here. You can see them, all right? So that's a high curb, all right? But as you can see, it is also very smooth. Okay, it's high, but it is smooth. And if you approach it as straight as possible, okay, and it takes some practice, you can really ride a lot of that curb. The car will bottom out, everything will vibrate, and you'll jump around. But because they are so smooth, they, if done properly, they do not unbalance the car a lot. Hello, Martin. Thanks for the follow. So it doesn't unbalance the car a lot, okay? So go into the turn a little bit sooner and try to go straight. So cut here like this, you see? Boom, already. Hey, David, thank you so much. Thank you so much, mate. It's all beer for the developers. Thank you, mate. Thanks for your support. So cut in here straight, keep on turning a little bit, and then instantly go the other way around and cut here again, okay? And obviously you need to be as rotated as possible because you need to go hard on the accelerator right after that curb, okay? Once again, you will end up wide, and here we have the usual bastards. We have the usual bastard curb here. They are wide, but you can't go over there. That's no big deal. Watch out! Don't end up on the sausages over here, because then your car will jump and you will lose a lot of time. Again, once again, the best practice here is to go wide and just position your tire somewhere around here, and hopefully you go out without big issues. Okay, thank you so much, guys, on the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so we move ahead. This is where you have to watch and go straight, okay? And then this time you really want to follow that left line and stay as left as possible. As left as possible. We are going to go downhill a lot while turning at full speed for Rivazza. So as left as possible here, okay? Go like this, and you can see now the road is going downhill. It is very steep, I can assure you. When you start seeing the curve here on the inside right-hander, okay? Start going, start turning in and go here. Now, this turn again is no big deal. You can make it flat out with no problems, okay? Even if you abuse the car a little bit, it will still make the turn. It's not a big deal. But here is the problem. Because you arrive so fast, okay, you want by the end of the turn, okay, to not be like this. You don't want to be like this and still turning, because you need to brake downhill somewhere here, okay, at the 100 meter, okay? So you need to be like this. You need to be already straight out of the turn, okay? You have to stop turning the steering wheel and be straight. You have to look down to Rivazza as straight as possible. You will arrive at the 100 meters mark here. Start braking there, okay? Don't start going over the turn and move around, okay? Because the more you move around, you are going downhill. It's very difficult to stop and slow down the car. So, as straight as possible, even if you're going a little bit outside, you know, even if you are, you know, you are a little bit rotated and you think, oh my God, I'm gonna end up too wide or too narrow or whatever. Don't bother. Straight line on the steering wheel, hard on the brakes, okay, and let the car slow down. Good downshifts, you know, with rhythm, not the typical don't do that, because the car will slow down in a worse matter. You need to let the revs go down and downshift with the revs down. This helps the ABS work better, okay? And go as straight as possible, as we said, and continue downshifting and braking, braking, braking. You go over the 50 meters, and usually this is where people go into panic and start to go inside, turning a lot. Don't do that. When you go into panic and turn a lot, the ABS, obviously, because the tires cannot brake and turn at the same time, so the ABS starts engaging, and your braking distances start to become wider and wider and longer, and you end up finishing very wide. So keep on going straight, okay? And only when you arrive here, you can start going a little bit inside, modulate the brake, and just before the curb around here, which, as you can see, it's very smooth, okay? There is a nasty surprise, but it's relatively smooth, okay? Release the brakes, or just a hint of trail braking. This is the moment where you need all the lateral force you can get from your tires, so don't stay on the brakes hard, because your tires will not have enough lateral force, okay, lateral grip. Helion asks, is it better to downshift all the gears at once, at the end, or progressively in these downhill sections? It is always better to downshift towards the end, but sometimes it's better to go a little bit more progressively. No? Why? Because sometimes you don't want to have your last downshift right at the end of the turn in. Sometimes you want it, sometimes not, okay? So, inside here, as little braking force as possible. Now, you can abuse a lot this inner curb, but be careful. Why is that? As you can see, okay, the curb is very, very smooth up, but then there is a little bit of a step here, which means that you can go really hard over here like this, no problem, once you go over, okay, so get in, no problem. But when you will start getting out, okay, from the curb, your tires will hit the little step and they will jump a little bit. Obviously, depending on your damper settings, pressures, downforce, all of that stuff, you might feel that little jump more or less, but still remains the fact that the moment you will go down that curb, if you are a little bit too unbalanced from the turning in and the car rotates too much and you go into a slight drift and you go into the accelerator, you normally might be able to control it, but the little jump maybe unbalance your car even more. So be careful, rotate the car, don't overdo it, because that little curb over there might, you know, take you by surprise. Nothing bad will happen, but it might take you by surprise, or, you know, the best scenario, you might lose a little bit of time. So, okay. Once again, sorry. Once again, you will end up wide here, usual bastard curb at the outside, which is also very important, because once you go outside here on the curb and you're still sliding outside, you will lose grip and you will end up into the sand trap. You don't want this to happen. So once again, don't go over that. Stay on the tricolore. Yes? All right. Okay. Hard on the accelerator, as we said, and reference points to tap the brakes before the last turn, which is the second part of Rivazza. Where is your reference points to tap the brake? It's not possible to see it always. Now, with this kind of time of the day, it is quite visible. You will see that there is a different asphalt here. The color is different. Let me show you closer so that you can understand it. You see? The asphalt here is different, okay? And so the color is different, and this is the point where you want to start your braking zone. If you cannot see it, then you want to have a look at the end of the stepped curbs and brake just a little bit before that, okay? With a little bit of practice, it becomes automatic, so don't worry about that. Just initially be very careful, because there's no clear indication where to start braking. So different color of the asphalt. When it's going to be wet, you won't see it, so take care. And end of the stepped curbs on the outside, so end of the very wide curb here. Possibly start braking a little bit sooner than that. Once again, once you have done that, turn in as usual over the curb. Don't go over the sausages, just touch them. Hard on the accelerator, try to rotate the car on the accelerator, okay? It's very important to get out of this turn as fast as possible, losing as little time as possible, because you know that, as we said initially, the start-finish straight line follows, even if it's not exactly a straight line, and the whole straight line is long, almost as long as the start-finish straight line at Monza. So it is an extremely long flat-out part of the circuit, and of course even 1 meter of acceleration beforehand here, it's very important. Once again, stay on the tricolore, don't go too wide, and accelerate as hard as possible. Last advice, don't follow a car very closely here. Be very careful, because obviously you have the pit entry, so maybe someone might decide to go into the pit entry and might not have enough practice, and might start braking here, okay? And that might caught you by surprise, so don't do that. For you, instead, if you want to go into the pit lane, go in as fast as possible after that white line that you just saw, or even better. Oops. Okay, so after that white red line here, there is also the start of those red strips at the sidewall, okay? This is the place usually that you want to arrive somewhere around here and start braking as hard as possible, so that at this point your speed will be under 50 meters. So you start braking there. Here you are under 50 meters. If you keep braking, release the brakes, pit limiter on, and inside the pit perfectly. All right? So this was it. A nice circuit walk of Imola. So let me check a little bit on the chat and see what's going on. And I hope you liked it, guys.